It's currently Sunday morning. I have been absolutely exhausted this week. You wouldn't believe it, but I am doing like 80-hour weeks at the moment. But let's talk about Australian tourist visas in general. So obviously before COVID, this is a very simple process. A lot of people did it. Depending on what country or passport you are from, there's something like, the 600 visa, the subclass 651. They are all types of tourist visas. It just depends on what country of passport you are from. It's kind of like Australian ranks different countries differently. So for example, if you are from the US, from the UK, all those countries, you could just literally fill in an application online and it will get approved like in 24 to 48 hours. It's so easy. And that's got to do with the country of passport you're from. It's just the way that the Australian Immigration Department kind of classifies it. It's a simple, low-risk application. The difficult one would be all the other countries that don't fit within that group. You have to provide a lot of documentation, because the main thing about tourist visas in Australia is that you have to be a genuine temporary entrant. What that means is that you are genuinely going to come here, you're going to enter the country temporarily, right? So you're not trying to come here to live, to work, to stay, forever. It's a tourist visa and you're just meant to stay temporarily. And I guess there's always been issues in the past with that, where some people come here, they love the country and they don't want to go back. And I don't blame them. But because of that, the process is difficult for a lot of countries. There's a lot of documentation you need to provide. So what I'm talking about is a subclass 600 visa, tourist visa. It's the one that you use for, a lot of countries. You do the application form. It's online at imi.homeaffairs.gov.au. You start an application for a subclass 600 visa. And you fill in all your details and that's all fine. And then the department look at, your history, where you've been, what you're doing, and they'll make a grant based on that. So the first thing they'll look at is, what country you're from and how old you are. People kind of in the younger range, so maybe 25 or maybe in their 20s to mid 30s, are classified high risk because they don't have strong ties to the country a lot of the time. They're not as established. So they may come to Australia and be like, this is a dream and want to stay here. So if you are from, some of the Southeast Asian countries and some parts of Europe and stuff, if you want to come to Australia and you're in that age range, you definitely need to provide strong supporting evidence of your finances and the fact that you're gonna be here, temporarily. So for example, other than providing your identity documents, your passport and all of that, which goes without saying, you actually need to provide evidence of employment at home, evidence of assets at home, and financials, basically. So for example, you have to show you have savings. So if you had savings in place, and let's just say, usually I ask clients to have $10,000 to $15,000 Australian saved, because if you're coming to a holiday in Australia and you're staying for, a few months, a couple months or a month, you do need that amount, because you can't come here to work. Obviously, you're here to holiday, and things in Australia are not cheap, believe me. If you're definitely staying at a hotel, I reckon you'll definitely spend that amount. But if you're staying, with friends and family, you might go a little bit below that amount. But I would say that's definitely the rule of thumb for most applicants. So for example, if you are taking leave to come to Australia, have a holiday, you have employment, and you've been granted that leave, provide evidence of that. So for example, you provide your last 6 months of pay slips that, hey, I've been paid consistently over the last 6 months. Provide your employment contract. Provide a letter of grant of leave from your employer. Provide, any official government documentation that supports that income as well. They like to see that. That is really, really important. People who don't have jobs, unless they've got a lot of money in savings, there is a very, very high risk that the tourist visa would be refused. So it's a little bit harder for younger people, but if you have a property, if you have a car, if you have money in your savings, or I don't know, superannuation or something, you would need to provide documentation of it to prove you have a reason to go back home. So for younger people, it is always harder because a lot of people don't have that at that age, but you have to do your best to provide that documentation because it's something they place a lot of weight on. People who are in the older range, 40s, 50s, 60s, who may still be working or retired if they're in their 60s, you can definitely provide evidence of assets, financials, and those, they are still classified, some of them as high risk, but if you have all those assets and you're retired and you have retirement savings and your superannuation and you provide evidence of that, it should be highly likely that you would be granted. So overall, that is the stuff you would have to provide. And you know what? That just boils down to money, isn't it? If you have money, it's gonna be okay. I've seen instances, if you're from, the US, the UK, or some of the other first world countries, essentially, you don't even need to provide that evidence. You just make your application, you submit it, and then in 24 hours, you probably get approved. Whereas, where I come from in China and some other countries where my friends come from, we have to provide a lot of evidence. So, I remember when I helped a family member, come to Australia, we provided their retirement savings, their property, their land title certificate, sponsorship letter from Australia, all sorts of things. It was actually quite a lot of work. If you do have a friend in Australia, they can write you a letter of invitation, inviting you to come and stay in Australia. And say that they're going to look after you, they may help you pay for some expenses, they can stay at your house, their house, all that stuff. And I've seen a lot of people do some really good letters, but I wouldn't say that's the main thing the case officers put the most weight on. When you're lodging a tourist visa application, it's about how much money and assets that you can prove. Have you seen border security? They stop someone at the airport and they check their bank or something like that. And if the person doesn't have a lot of savings, they think it's fishy straight away. Because they're like, how can this person support themselves in Australia if they're coming here for a holiday? It raises suspicions that they actually come here to legally work. So that's the kind of things you've got to watch out for. I thought it'd be good to explain to you guys, what the case officers kind of look for when you're applying for a tourist visa, because some of that stuff, it takes time. You may need to save up. You may need to save up for the next few months to be able to apply for Australian tourist visa because how much money you put in there is very, very important. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video of this place that we stayed in. It is just incredible. There's just views of Melbourne City. I forgot how beautiful it is. We've been locked down for so many months. So I very look forward to heading out to the city today. I will show some more footage of this place and also what we're doing in the city day, to come with me. Some skinny fritters, yum!